Welcome back to the Amazon EU Masters Quarterfinals live from Berlin. It's Prime League. Unicorns of Love slap Heretics in the face on the second game. Are you feeling, Noah?
The slap in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kinda. It's
you were expecting that slap, weren't you?
Who doesn't love a slap in the face?
I mean, I expected Unicorns of Love to identify what they did wrong in the first game, and they adapted. And it went amazingly for them.
It's exactly what we're going to talk about, because we need to look into the champion select to understand how they adapted through the draft and how it worked from that one. Because I know you have some hot takes, Goldberg.
Hot takes?
Very hot takes.
Okay, hot take. Getting Lucian as a takeaway pick from Jackspektra is quite nice. I think the draft, the idea is very clear from the side of Unicorns of Love going into this one. They come through with the AD bans as they want to, but then at the same time, they also put in the takeaway on the Lucian themselves, so Jack is forced to play a scaling AD carry. This is fine, and normally you'd be like, okay, we're going to play for the Lucian Nami, this is going to be the lane we're playing for, but what Unicorns of Love actually do is that they use this bot lane more neutralizing instead. Where I think Heretics is screwing up a little bit is the fact that they see Lucian as a first pick coming through, and Lucian, when you see Lucian, you know Nami's coming up next. So they could have picked, you know, they could have just gone Aphelios Lulu on 1-2, and then afterwards, they could have let that into the bot lane. But the thing is as well, still securing that Aphelios Lulu, they still got the bot lane priority. Even though the enemy had the Lulu, the Lucian and Nami, they're still piling it well down on the Heretic side.
Yeah, absolutely, but it wasn't enough in the end. Something I was demanding from Heretics, it was not to be that one-dimensional, to be depending on Jackspektra all the time. And yet, here we are once again. They funneled a lot of resources towards that bottom lane. And yes, Aphelios was kind of okay. Lucian Nami fell short a bit, but it didn't matter in the end because the other side of the map in Unicorns of Love Sax Edition was showing up.
I think that's the big one as well. The fact that there's not a lot to play for, even though you get the bot lane ahead from the side of Heretics, because they have them popping, right? But then you have Wukong in the jungle, which you pick so early in the rotation that Unicorns of Love gets to pick so much extra around it. Like, look at the champions you're playing that Wukong into. It's into the GP, it's into the Sejuani, it's into the Sylas, right? It looks fine, but it's not going to do as much as, for example, if you get Trundle dust into the Sejuani instead, like how much more you open up with. And at the same time, going into the second ban rotation, you clearly did not have a response to the Sylas because you picked it in with the Talia. You kind of got, let me just find an appropriate word I can use here. You got gapped in the mid lane a little bit with the 2 versus 2, and just suddenly it didn't matter the bot lane was ahead because the rest of the map was falling apart.
So Wukong didn't fit for you, Talia didn't fit for you as well. Is that what you're saying? Because we're being really polite.
Yes, most certainly. And I think just like, who did a good job this series though? Ruby and Lurox, they showed up really well with the 2v2.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And this is what we expected actually from Ruby and Lurox to be this mid-jungle synergy. Those were the guys that stayed in Unicorns of Love Sax Edition from the spring split. They should be playing as a unit, and they showed up in this very same game. Yeah, I mean, Zwyroo and bluerzor fall short this one time. And again, you can be depending all the time, and you expect that they need to show up. This moment is when Gold Diff just went crazy. Yeah,
because here, Heretics is actually making a play on the bot side instead, but they're just losing that play. They're fumbling, and they're not they're not getting the 3 versus 2 in their favor. Because, I mean, Syra and Talia, once again, did not leave the same mark as we sometimes see him perform with on some of the other champions. And then their cross map was just, well, there's a Herald in mid lane, as we see right here, coming through from Lurox and Ruby, and they just gain way more priority for themselves. And once again, Lurox and Ruby together just gets everything done. And here it is from the bot side point of view from Heretics. I mean, they're just going to back off the Unicorns of Love bot lane, and they're just going to be happy with the amount of resources. Lurox can move down, stabilize it once again, and now you just got winning lanes once again.
I want to ask you something, Goldberg, because we were talking about the bot lane and the way that Jackspektra was actually styling on Shiganari and well, the lane they picked, Lucian and Nami. So it seems like Heretics are playing for the bot side. And even though Unicorns of Love are losing the bot side, it doesn't matter because the rest of the map is winning. So do you think this is still going to be the same thing on game 3?
I most certainly think it's going to be a bit different because we're going into a situation where Heretics now is moving to blue side. And having blue side really just opens up the rest here because as Unicorns of Love, you can't go for the same strategy, which is that we're going to take away the Lucian. You might be forced into a situation where you'll now have to ban it for yourself, face Jackspektra on an even map state in terms of like the 1 versus 1 or scaling AD carries rather. And then the lanes, I think, from the side of Heretics is really where they need to solve the issues because the bot lane clearly is not one, but you need to make sure that your lanes are way more stable, because Unicorns of Love, they have a point of attack. It's not coming from the bot side, it's coming from the rest of the map.
Yeah.
Noah, okay, we talked about in the pre-show, we talked about the mid lane, we talked about the jungle as well, the way they were going to pop off, and they're doing that in favor of Unicorns of Love. And you didn't see the pre-show, where were you? Now, Scarface on the top side was another one that we highlighted, and we saw him on the Sejuani on the first game. Let's be honest, didn't work. I want Scarface on the carry position. He brought in the GP, he was pressing the R and just popping off. Tell me about Scarface.
No, Scarface was amazing today in the round. Like, I mean, he was everywhere. He was, you know, hitting the silent while also having beautiful ultimates. I remember that last one that took down Jackspektra with the collector, having impact with the barrels. Here is ultimate. You know, you're gonna get the slow. You're gonna destroy Ivo, and you get those kills. You get those goals. This moment was also real hard for Heretics to try to collapse on a Scarface, not respecting the rotations from the side of Unicorns of Love Expedition, and Lurox using the ultimate as if it was, you know, point and click ultimate from Sejuani. He was everywhere, and I think this is the side of the Scarface Unicorns of Love Expedition need. They have all these winning conditions. They are really popping off on the side of the map where Heretics is not showing up. Heretics needs to be really aware of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing with new Gangplank as well, right? Laning phase usually is a bit halted. We've even seen Gangplanks get solo killed by Ornn in this exact matchup.
Yeah,
that didn't really
true.
happen because I think Ivo also had a bit of an off game. But once you get to the late game where your crit now is a bit more amplified on your ability as well, all of a sudden you'll see the kind of damage that bluerzor apart here in the team fights like we saw. And I think the amount of range that they could play around with as well, despite being very melee oriented and short range with the Lucian, was actually quite incredible from the side of Unicorns of Love. And it allowed them to put Heretics in a position where they couldn't go for a front-to-back team fight situation like you usually would when you have an Aphelios. So yeah, I think really well played and adapted by Unicorns of Love heading into the second phase.
You know what? I want to see the damage. I want to see how we fared in this one, because Scarface playing with the GP was a menace. And there you go. Look at that.
Wow,
Look at that difference. From the first game on Sejuani to this game where you just click the Q, dead. That's exactly what I wanted to see from Scarface. No.
I have to say that Sejuani 2k damage is also quite shocking, more even than the Sylas. But yeah, this is, you know, the proof that Scarface showed up today with this Gamblang. I really don't know if Heretics is gonna allow him to be that comfortable once again. Something that happens a lot in the Superliga is that the teams dig their own grave by going full ham onto the front to back compositions. I'm really not the biggest fan of that. Every single time, and this was that one time. I was pretty sure it was going to be a 1-1 for.
Let's do this. I want to know what's going to change in between games. We have little time, and then I also want predictions. So Goldberg, what's going to change in the draft?
Okay, so we're going to have 3 AD carry bands coming through from the side of Unicorns of Love. They're going to be Lucian, they're going to be the Draven, and they're going to be the Kalista, and then probably first pick an Enchanter from the side of Heretics if they want to secure more late game agency that you still get from the Lulu.
Yeah.
And then I think you just stabilize solo laners by banning, either picking away Sylas on 2 yourself, or by having a better response to it by banning it in the second ban phase. I won't get too in-depth, you said fast. The point is, Heretics going to win the next game, that's all I'm saying.
Is that it? Is that it? Okay, what about you, Noah?
I really think Heretics is going to win the next game.
She's starting to believe. Okay, so predictions, you're telling me
Heretics.
You're telling me Heretics as well. So
Yeah.
for both of you, it's going to be Heretics on this one. You know where they stand, chat. You know how they're doing right now.
But are you saying we still have to fill, or are we throwing now? Are we throwing, or do we still have to fill conversation here?
No, I think we're throwing now to the casters.
Okay,
yeah, the
we'll
casters are ready for us. They're ready for the game.
ready.
I'm ready for that.
Can I do it?
It's your job, man.
Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, thank you so much, by the way. Oh, hello, guys. How you doing? So it's time to toss it to the casters, and we're about to jump to the third game. It's tied up between Prime League and Super League. Who's going to win? I don't know. So toss it to Jamada and my boy Munchables. How you doing?
Goldberg, you're so mean. Goldberg, why are you stopping him from
we
tossing?
Cast now?
Yeah.
Is
are we allowed
to cast
Goldberg,
now?
if you can still hear us, are we allowed to like come in?
Welcome to the
Hey,
caster
guys.
desk, everybody. It's game number 3 coming your way. It's 1 apiece in the series, and it's a best of 5 as well. It's our scheduled LFL break day. It's our first quarterfinal.
And you know
that doesn't
what?
have an LFL team.
It's going pretty well, I'd say. I'm liking this. No LFL teams in the matchups, and you know, I think both these teams fighting really hard to prove that they deserve to be in semi-final.
And both getting a very solid win for themselves in the first 2 games, right? 1 apiece, and Unicorn sticking to the blue side in both of these games. But now, you know, we come away from the analyst desk, both Noah and Goldborg say, look, Heretics are going to win game number 3. So I'm curious, Jamada, where are you sitting on this one? Because I was kind of convinced by Unicorns game number 2. I felt like that was a dominant victory. I'm surprised that both of them were so Heretics-sided.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm still feeling like maybe it's because the side selection has maybe kind of edged them more towards Heretics here. I'm still looking at this draft and I'm going to kind of say, you know, what's going to happen to Lucian? How will Unicorns, you know, allocate champion resources towards Scarface now that he's had such a strong game, right? Not that the bottom side for Unicorns of Shiganari was having a poor game, you know, in game number 1 or 2, really. More to the case of how are you going to try and shut down, not Scarface, shut down Jackspektra, whilst also still playing towards the own win conditions that you potentially want to play towards. I think a lot is definitely going to change in this draft now that we're seeing sides swapped up. I expect Lucian will be removed away. I'm wondering how Gangplank will now be handled. I'm also kind of now leaning into maybe Sejuani as a bit of a priority pick as well.
Yeah, it feels like the drafts are developing across the course of the series. As you mentioned, like so many AD carry bans coming out, and maybe some of those bans have to be changed for other picks, right? If you do ban the Lucian, well, which AD carry do you allow to go through, right? Do you allow the Sivir through? Do you allow the Draven through? We saw the Kalista banned in game number 2 that was allowed through in game number 1. I feel like there are a lot of different ways that you can approach this draft, but ultimately, we'll have to find out the way the teams want to approach it as we head towards game number 3 here. And Heretics going to be now on that blue side. We'll see how that changes things up here in the draft.
Yeah, now, Goldborg called for, what was it, I think, Draven, Lucian, and was it Kalista as the bans for Unicorns? So let's see how all that tracks as adaptations on blue side here. Heretics still going to remove away the Sivir, which we've been seeing gone quite frequently here. Vi as well, the other pick that they've been consistently banning away. Ever since Lurox had that in groups, it feels like he's not really seen too much of it. 1 out of 3. Goldborg's doing pretty alright here. Expecting the Vi to still follow through. I think they don't want to see Lurox on this pick. It also just does a really good job of, you know, hey, this target, no more League of Legends. And it feels like Unicorns showed a pretty strong tendency of following up quite heavily on some of these engages that come through very snappily. So I expect to still see this one removed off the board.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Ruby is no stranger to the Ahri. So especially if you can get that Vi, it's a terrifying combo. So as you say, the Vi will be banned away by Heretics here. Wukong looked pretty terrifying. The Draven ban does come on through, so
for 2.
Removing these aggressive bottom laners. And Goldborg right so far on those bans from the
I know he's rubbing his hands in the green room right now as he watches the bans
cackling menacingly.
That strange Danish cackle he does, you know. All right, let's see what the third ban is here. Will we kind of still stay along the same sort of lines as what we've seen in game number 1 and 2 from Heretics? The answer is yes, Zeri is going to hit the ban phase in again. So, Kalista? Yeah. I can see a Kalista ban here. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And then you kind of just say, all right, Heretics, will you go towards one of the enchanters and then pick up whatever's left? Or will you go towards maybe one of the AD carries that's still up and available? The Aphelios, right, is the one that springs to mind if the Kalista comes through. And then you'll be looking at next options. Goldborg, you know what? Well done.
I don't know if anyone at home could hear the clapping, but there was a little golf clap that came through there. Because Goldborg's actually arrived on the scene. He's given a little handshake to Jamada. Beautiful.
What's great is in the
camaraderie.
Feed. Yeah, he's come by. He's handed me a Heretics win card. So let's see. The Aphelios comes through as the first pick here. What will Unicorns respond with is now my question, right? Because all of the ADs that are banned or picked haven't been seen yet. This would be okay.
So on patch 12.16, obviously this was nerfed pretty heavily. You know, it is the most played AD carry for both of these AD carry players across the course of the split, but it's a lot stronger across the course of the split. So also locking in that Sejuani, as you said, a higher priority now, especially with how successful it's been over the last couple of games here.
Yeah,
now I see where Heretics go.
I wonder if Heretics want to kind of go something like Trundle or Renekton here and just completely shut down the top side of Sejuani kind of being a strong flex, because Trundle obviously 1-to-1 in the jungle, kind of just, you know, subjugate it, not so good anymore. Renekton, you can't deny away the Renekton-Sejuani combination. They're going to go into the Aatrox, which has been banned away second phase by Unicorns both games so far, so Abo finally getting his hands on this pick, and this should force the Sejuani down to the jungle. It's not really like the worst matchup in the world. I've actually seen Sejuani's win it, to be honest with you. But it's more or less like you don't want to give Aatrox a free scaling lane where he gets to hit his iron spikes pretty freely. I will say with the Trundle coming in alongside the Renekton just makes so much sense, because now, sure, you might, you know, lose out in the early stages, but the dives just kind of set themselves up for free between a Renekton and a Sej. So now Ibo is going to have to play a little more on edge if he doesn't have bluerzor in his pocket.
Yeah, the Renekton Sejuani is a terrifying combination of picks, and I feel like you kind of have to respect the Sylas out from Ruby here. Even if he did go a little deep in a couple of those team fights, it's still terrifying alongside that Sejuani. Lulu going to be banned away by the Unicorns here. And you can expect maybe more focus on those enchanters to deny the
Yuumi, Renata. What else is there? Maybe Karma? I don't think you have to dig that deep. But yeah, again, the enchanters are probably all going to be removed here. Don't want to see that one go through for either side, and maybe Winsome will potentially default back to something like that. Amumu wasn't too bad in game number 1, right? I think just kind of struggled into the team composition. This time around, there's a lot less, you know, very irritating disengage options available. Unicorns removing away the top catch. Really like that. Very smart to take that off the board when you have kind of long range single target pick engage. Make sure you shut down the potential of whiteinn just kind of saying, nope, gobble gobble. My AD carry. Heretics again. I think Yuumi just probably makes the most sense in this spot, right?
That's a very strange sentence.
I know it was a very strange sentence. You could have just run with it.
I could have, but I didn't want to, you know.
Okay.
Victor going to be banned away in the end, which means Yuumi is available. You've got a Zeri there as well.
Everybody boo Unicorns if they lock in Zeri.
I mean, look, it's highly likely that this comes up through. It's great on a Renekton as well. It's great on a Sejuani. And we'll see what their final pick will be. The Yuumi locked in as the boos come through in Twitch chat. But now over to the side of Heretics. They need a support for this Aphelios. Then they need a mid laner as well.
Yeah, support and a mid laner. The Victor ban spells to me, maybe they want to go back to the Swain, potentially. Of course, that matchup was pretty Ruby favored. He was winning it very hard in the early stages. Maybe it's just a call out to say, hey, you have a very strong front line, you have very strong scaling from the bottom. No, it's just for the Swain. All right, there you go. Never mind. And now let's see how Ruby will actually want to respond to the Swain now that the Victor rather is off the table. Could this be a flat angle?
I was going to say, I think you just take the Sylas,
because
right?
It's open, yeah.
It's like, I mean, Swain doesn't, you don't necessarily want to go into Swain, but when you're also Swain, does it matter?
No, exactly. And honestly, in my head, Swain ult might be one of the most broken ults in the game for Sylas to steal. Because one of the big things about Sylas is obviously those cooldowns, right? He's got sort of 4 to 5 second cooldowns, and especially when the Kingslayer is down, that level of survivability kind of drops, right? You kind of have to play that more kitey, you kind of have to wait out those CDs. If you have Swain ult, you just don't have to. So it does make for a very disgusting team fight. And not only that, see the cat in the bottom right-hand screen, everybody? That's going to be on top of a Sylas who's pretending to be a Swain. So it's going to get really nasty very, very quick. I'm liking what both the teams put together.
Yeah, feels like, once again, though, we've got 2 compositions that just want a big fist fight. You know, I'm hoping that they just line up in the river again and just agree to brawl like they did at the Baron, basically, in game number 1, because feels like both very close range compositions here. Could be plenty of space to show off mechanical skill as well. Ruby on the Sylas once again, though. I feel like this maybe should have been respected after game number 2 because he looked terrifying.
Yeah, I'm definitely quite surprised. But again, you know, the focus is so heavily towards the bottom side because all the enchanters were available. Surprised that the Yuumi went through, but hey, you know, everybody pick your poison, maybe. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm just kind of confused by the net go through. We'll see how it, you know, lines up. At the end of the day, they should have a fair amount of autonomy through the bottom lane, right? With the Leona, with the Aphelios, they should have a lot of pretty much first say to do whatever they want now.
I think the way that Heretics, the way I see it at least, the way they're approaching this is like, you're going to pick Yuumi, we're going to pick Leona. Get ready to be dived. Because that was the old school way of dealing with a Yuumi, right? Just dive her over and over again. And I feel like, you know, Zeri not very good at clearing those waves in the early game. Lurox is going to have to kind of babysit this bottom lane a little bit if he doesn't want Shiganari to get dived over and over. But Lurox wants to be playing up towards Scarface where he has a Renekton alongside his Sejuani. So I feel like it's kind of a conflict of interest here for Lurox. That's not really what that means. But
no.
Multiple places that he needs to focus.
Yeah, sure. Decisions. Lurox, what will you make for this early game? And I think it's also a little bit on Scarface to see how he manages the wave. It seems for now, Lurox is going to be starting on the top side. And I also want to note, Lurox has taken off the shock into Trundle. Very small, I know, but giving Trundle all of those extra stats, and let's not forget it, works multiplicatively. Got it on the first try.
Nice.
the more stats you have, the more you technically lose and give to Trundle. And if you go so high, eventually the Trundle ult, once you drop off the Frost Armor and the Aftershock stats, you just go into negative resist and you just get bloody blown up. So we'll see whether or not that ends up happening a lot, because I've seen many a Trundle press their R key on an Aftershock, passive up Sejuani, and take a lot more damage than they should be allowed.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And also, it's just Trundle is completely invincible at that point in the game as well. So definitely something to keep your eyes on in those skirmishes. But both junglers starting on the top side of our map here, pathing towards that bottom lane, which I can't say I'm massively surprised about, honestly, with the way... I feel like this is one of those bottom lanes that doesn't look that exciting on the tin, as Shiganari gets engaged upon. Jackspektra getting a couple of autos in as well. It doesn't look that exciting on the tin, but ultimately, if it starts going one way, it'll go that way very quickly.
Yeah, I really want to see how Heretics play out the spawn lane now, right? They're the ones with all of the sort of, you know, agency in the early laning phase. They had it in game number 2 to a point, and they didn't do too bad of it. Now I want to see, now that they're dealing with, you know, Zeri, Yuumi, a nerfed Zeri at that, how much ability they have to kind of just bully this bottom lane around. bluerzor's on the bottom side. Ruby getting a really nice trade.
Big all in the mid lane. Zwyroo in trouble here. Does manage to get the pullback. Gets a bit of healing as well. The back of that one as bluerzor moves into the jungle. Lurox here to contest his own blue buff, but doesn't have priority in his bottom lane. It should mean that bluerzor can just threaten this one, but the blue buff resets. Jackspektra won't want to leave that bottom lane for too long.
No, and I mean,
he lands it again. Does not predict it. He's right on the tower. First blood for Zwyroo. Ruby oversteps.
That was sick. And I mean, just being able to pull him back under the Visions of Empire as well to slow him down. Great solo kill. And just capitalization on too much over-eagerness for Ruby to try and find a solo kill of his own. And all the while, bluerzor also managed to steal away the blue buff.
And I feel like Zwyroo there was trying to look juicy, you know? He's like, Ruby's going to go on me if I step further forward again, and baits Ruby in, finds that solo kill, and gets Heretics off to a good start. 500 gold lead, and now no summoners for Ruby, and there are 3 blue players in his lane. Ruby down once again, 0-2 on the Sylas, and Heretics off to a flying start.
This is just excellent map reads from Heretics. Come back from the bottom side play, and they just immediately rotate up towards the mid lane. Let's get a look at the solo kill, though, because like you say, Zwyroo makes himself look so juicy here, gets hit by the chain, maybe sure he could have looked to try and dodge it, flashes away, and as that claw comes back in, catches Ruby, dragged back underneath the tower. Then look at the wave, because now that it's shoved back in, Ruby feels the need to have to just walk up, right? He wants to be in XP range as some of these creeps die underneath Zwyroo's tower, and he just gets forced a little bit too far to the top side of the lane by Zwyroo's Vision of Empire again, and there's just too many players. Really well played on both kills, honestly, from Zwyroo. The first to initially find that solo kill, but also to kind of force Ruby into an uncomfortable position as well, so the rest of his team can collapse.
And it feels like the first play was like really mechanically well played by Zwyroo, and then the second play is like the team Heretics manipulating the map, manipulating the way that Ruby has to play, and punishing so hard. And now, massive lead to start this one off, and an all-in on the bottom side as well. Shiganari already having to use his cleanse, rooted up, but nothing more comes out from the bottom lane of Heretics. That was 2 summoners burnt there in trade for 3.
Yeah, Flash Cleanse gone. Now if they can actually stack away Heretics, get towards that bottom side, dive with bluerzor. Maybe Zwyroo even has a little bit of priority in the next couple of minutes. It's a very viable target to try and snowball on the bottom side of the map. I really want to try and see Unicorns force something on the top side, to be honest with you. Scarface has been having a pretty good time up there. 10 CS up at the moment. And again, Sejuani, Renekton, the setup is as easy as you'd like. I don't think there's an easier combination to pull off with the Renekton in this meta at the moment. So to see Aibo kind of go relatively untouched in terms of just kind of being allowed to catch waves like this, for example. Definitely a little less over-eagerness for plays than I was expecting from Unicorns in this early game.
Yeah, I feel like when you think of Renekton and junglers that are easy to gank for him, it's like Nidalee and Elise are the 2 that like historically come to your mind, right? Sejuani's even easier than those. Like, it's even easier.
Be in range.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Instant procs the E, and then you can go for the Q on top of it. And if you've got your ult, it's a whole other category. So, feels like that could be an option for them. Lurox is currently on his wolves, could path up towards that side as this red buff will be coming up fairly shortly. Jackspektra does take a Q on the bottom side, but so far so good for the Heretics, and a fairly slow start from the side of the Unicorns. They do have plenty of scaling, though, right? With the Sylas and the Zeri. The Renekton, not so much, but not as bad as it once was.
Yeah, so this is actually a fairly big concern. I saw this from, I believe it was a Vitality B game, though my memory might be failing me here, where there was Swain, Yuumi, Renekton, and I think it was actually a Sejuani, funnily enough. Now, whilst Unicorns might not have a Swain, they kind of do have a Swain. And let me tell you right now, they were several thousand gold behind, but do you know what ended up happening? They couldn't die. And I do fear that, that was pretty close, that if Heretics don't snowball a lead to a point where they can find the target with whiteinn or, you know, some kind of pick off a Gravity moment or something like this and immediately blow them up, they are going to get outdone in the longer team fights.
And I feel like it's one of those things as well where, yes, you can build healing resistance, or healing reduction, sorry. You can build the mortal wounds with an Oblivion Orb or an Executioner's or a Thornmail, but it only does so much. It doesn't feel that effective in League of Legends right now. A lot of the time, it doesn't feel like it does a whole lot of anything until you see the sheer amount of healing that comes through when you don't have the healing reduction.
It's that weird thing right now in the meta, right? It's like you don't have anti-heal, champions heal to full HP. You have anti-heal, they heal to like 85% anyway, so like,
Yeah, is it worth it is the question, but we'll have to find out. Is Heretics so far so good at least? They do have the lead, and it's a question of if they can continue that snowball. Aibo used to being the weak side on that top side, and we haven't really seen bluerzor focus on the top lane across the course of this series so far. Has focused on the Heralds, but not necessarily influencing the top lane itself.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a strange one. And again, I return back to my point that I also want to see focus from Unicorns up there. Finally, like you say, I mean, it's only been Heralds, not so much topside this series. I think definitely now that the level 6s are in, you know, there's a lot more to play for Heretics, right? Subjugate makes one of those targets super squishy, very easy to burst down, and it just seems like with, you know, a middling priority in the mid, or in the top lane rather, and the fact that Zwyroo can make his way over here with whiteinn from the bottom lane, they can just very easily secure this, and Unicorns are going to be able to trade it for anything.
Yeah, so far so good. Heretics is Shiganari going to return to the bottom side. They're actually going to hop off of the shoulders here and join the jungle for a little bit. Let Shiganari get some solo experience, as this Zeri is going to need to be a powerhouse later on into the game. And I will say, in late game team fights, if you try and look at AD carries in isolation, which granted, you're not often going to see a 1v1 between AD carries in the late game, Zeri is going to do well into an Aphelios in terms of just outranging, right? It's going to be difficult for, unless you can get a really good Gale Force with a Gravitum, it's difficult for the Aphelios to ever get close to that Zeri. And it feels like that's kind of a similar story for pretty much this whole composition on the side of Heretics, unless Shiganari walks into Jack, but we'll be able to zip over the wall here.
Yeah, now, here's the thing. Even though Lurox is here, sure, Cleanse is available, so the ultimate kind of just gets cleansed away. Probably should be able to walk it off without Winsome having that ultimate available in his own pocket as well. So they're just going to disengage from the plate. Shiganari will be joined once again by Winsome. That 2v2 will ensue. I think the next real big question is, where is bluerzor going to go with this Rift Herald, right? He's in the mid lane, kind of pathing down towards the bottom side, potentially. Dragon's also up. We've been seeing these first Dragons go down roughly at this timer, right? 9 to 12 minutes has been when they've been going down. Could this be a potential start-up? But with Unicorns having priority in the bottom side, it seems like they're having second guesses about where to go at.
Yeah, it has felt like Heretics have been the ones to put their best foot forward in the first few minutes of the game, right? And like you say, the sort of 10 to 12 minutes mark has been when they're going for these Drakes. And you can see that bluerzor wants to continue that trend, but has the Herald in his back pocket, would love to give that gold over to Jackspektra if he could, but whether or not that's possible is down to the fact that we've got plenty of players moving to this bottom side from both teams. This could well be a 4v4 over the Drake.
It could. And the thing to know is that Ruby has his ultimate available, should be able to steal away Swain if he feels like it's going to ensue into something major. And I mean, pits are starting to come through a little bit here. Heretics need to be a bit careful.
It feels like both teams are nervous to actually commit though. Shiganari zips over the wall, just Zeri things as he gets out to safety there. whiteinn trying to find the engage, but it won't quite work out. Now priority in that bottom side, and Heretics feel comfortable to start the Drake off, but Lurox poking his head in, just showing that he's still sticking around. He's still a part of this play. Good bit of fancy footwork there. is now the bottom lane starts to move over. Jackspektra less than half HP, and Ruby's moving over as well. We could have a fight for the Drake here. It's smited as Jackspektra flashes out the roots across the team. Oh, Ruby never even gets to press the ultimate. He steals it but can't use it. And now the chase down from bluerzor as Lurox goes down. A double kill. Shiganari next on the chopping block, forced to flash and cleanse. And Heretics, 2 more on the board.
Oh, if Ruby could get that armor off, he gets the bonus HP. Maybe he's able to sustain through some of that damage, but now dies again. 3rd time in a row, not having the best game so far. Poor Ruby, focused down by Heretics yet again. In this exchange, we'll get an immediate replay, see what exactly happens. So Heretics made the call to just burst out the dragon. They know that Lurox could potentially get in range for the smite, but it doesn't end up coming through. Ruby dashes in, forces Jackspektra over the wall, but it's a bunch of the bursts from everybody who turns around onto the Sylas on top of just Jackspektra's ultimate as well. Flashes come through to follow onto Lurox, and realistically, Unicorn just didn't have a strong angle to get into this team fight and actually find a target to burst down straight away.
Man, that CC chain onto Ruby as well. He was CC'd from 100% to 0 in that fight. Still doing okay on the CS, but 0-3-0. It's not a good start to things for our Sylas player in the mid lane. And Heretics, you said that they needed to snowball here. They needed to maintain and build that lead. It's working out for them so far. I just want to quickly mention as well the build from Ivo here. Actually go for the Gore Drinker rather than the Eclipse.
Definitely very interesting. So obviously, Gore Drinker is... Oh no, Herald denied. Well, not the best use from the Heretics. I mean, I guess it was probably about to time out with 12 minutes into the game. So, of course, Herald, for those that don't know, you can only hold on to it for 4 minutes. So, it seems like they were just trying to get the best out of the objective that they could. This rotation could actually mean Shiganari.
Yeah, big pressure out from Heretics here. Shiganari will just dash out. You know, there is a pillar there, but he'll be fine. But this is the actual goal of the play, right? Jackspektra hammering away on this bottom lane tower. The rest of Heretics trying to zone for the time being. They move in to finish the tower. There we go. First tower of the game, and now they get to go on to the Zeri as well. Why not have a bonus kill on the back of a great macro play?
Yeah, I mean, really nice stuff from Heretics. First the rotation, then the pick. And they need to continue to do this as well. Don't forget, spoke about how there's just so much sustain available to a bunch of the Unicorns members. Once the Yuumi comes online, once the Swain also able to be stolen, the front line is massive. But if Heretics can continually just burst down the first target that they find, the team fights are going to go as one-sided as this. And they're just going to get the tier 2.
I mean, it's a Trundle and a red-white Aphelios. They just shred towers. Tier 2 taken at 13.5 minutes into the game. It's a 5,000 gold lead, 5,500 gold lead almost for the Heretics here. And wow, what a statement in game number 3. The analysts both predicted Heretics coming into this one. They seemed a little unsure, but I mean, Heretics aren't.
No, they are very sure of themselves right now. Going for all of these plays pretty much off cooldown, it feels like. And I really got to say, massive step up from groups in particular, where it kind of felt like it may be a repeat story of Spring, where, you know, Spanish first seed makes it to quarters, gets knocked out. But right now, really putting up a huge, huge fight here into the Unicorns Sexy Edition. And with this 5k gold lead, can effectively do whatever they want on the map. The Herald is up and available for them to take. I expect that the priority is going to be on that. Just try and keep the tempo really high so far.
Yeah, and it feels like bluerzor versus Lurox, honestly, has been the matchup to watch in this series so far for me, where we're seeing between the different games, it's down to which jungler can control the game. Lurox in game number 2 looked incredible. Oh, Ruby, not again, surely. Just get away with his life. But this time, it's bluerzor completely in control of the game. 3 neutral objectives once more. Heretics completely dominant in the map right now. Scarface moving away, will be able to walk out with his life here. The ward was spotted, but not quite cleared.
Yeah, and also, I just want to pull everyone's attention to Zwyro's build for a second, because we've spoken about how much sustain this Unicorn side could potentially have. Not only immediately picking up the Oblivion Orb, but going towards, as opposed to the Rylai's Rush, which I feel like is maybe slightly more common in comparison to the Leondaries straight after. The Leondaries plus Oblivion Orb, such a strong combo because the dot burn keeps the anti-heal applied for longer. So just ensuring that as he is going to be the one that's in the mix of everybody, most likely, he is applying that anti-heal, but also keeping it on them, even if they're outside of his range.
Yeah, big value on just the burn alone as well, right? Just the big damage that you're going to get across. When you look at how tanky this team is going to be with a Renekton, with a Sejuani, you can see that there will be value there. It's just a matter of execution in these fights as well, because Heretics, as you said, need to keep themselves ahead, and that is CC chain and a half. See you later. Zwyroo goes down. The Leandries didn't help him there.
No, wasn't even able to use his flash or ultimate, and now Ruby uses the subjugate, and they're going to just slowly maraud forward.
I feel like both teams are so nervous to
Scarface is
more though, because Scarface behind enemy lines. bluerzor trying to escape, dodges away from the chains, and it's Scarface to go down instead. Ivo gets the best of the flanks as Lurox forced to flash. And it will just be the one for Heretics in the end.
Yeah, I mean, Lurox doesn't commit forward with his solo laners there, and they're not able to get the permafrost stun onto bluerzor, and because of that, they can't burst him down, potentially turn onto other targets. Meanwhile, Shiganari as well, top side, he's nowhere near this fight. He's not even going to be able to pick up the tower because the teleport comes through from the Swain that was picked off.
A Herald,
and now there's a Herald as well, so Heretics, sure, they lose out on the initial mid lane pick, but now they also get 2 towers and the pick, and maybe another one on top of that on Ruby.
Ruby thought he was getting the flank, but it turns out he's just getting outnumbered instead. Knocked up, low on HP. The Zenith Blade keeps him in one place. bluerzor there just takes a bite out of him before he goes down. It's a kill into the pocket of Jackspektra of all people. And now with the Drake on top of it, look at the speed at which this snowball is kicking off. There is 1,000 gold lead for every kill that Heretics have.
That's an impressive stat, isn't it? And it gets better because it's a cloud sword. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Oh, wait. But this is a good value one. Swain, zoom in.
Speaking of, currently zooming against Lurox, just trying to protect the jungle here. I don't think much more will come of this one, as Zwyroo does need to be a little cautious. Could be dived here, but it doesn't look like Unicorns are going to come in.
Yeah, they don't want to bite. They don't actually know where the rest of Heretics are. Of course, having just made the play to get the dragon, have a pretty good idea that they would have reset and could very easily respond to this play on the top side. So back away, good call. It's really high value for the Aatrox, Joe. All right, enough promoting for the Cloud Soul. I've done enough of this game. Unless they get the soul, and then you really see the power.
No, get off his cape!
No.
He's gonna rip!
Oh, they're just playing fetch. You see, he threw something for him to go catch.
Yeah, he didn't look that friendly though. That is not a well-trained dog. I have to say, Jack, get it together, man. Get that dog trained. If you can't do it yourself, pay someone. I'm assuming it's not his real dog.
No, well,
I don't think he has a world skin. Jack.
No, he doesn't. Weird assumption, Joe. All right. Game. Back to it.
Oh, if you want to. If that's all right with you. If that's okay with Goldborg. We should check with Goldborg,
we need to check with Goldborg
before we transition to anything. 19 minutes on the clock here. Do you know what? I'm going to go off on a whim and assume that we're okay to talk about the game here. 8,000 gold lead. It's domination from Heretics here, is they honestly kind of got dominated in game number 2. This feels like they are back on top of things. Goldborg has given us the thumbs up to talk about the game. That's good, that's good. We're on track with what's allowed, and Heretics are on track with just keeping the ball rolling. Jamada, you said they need to snowball fast before the healing comes online. Well, it looks like they're on a timer themselves. They want to get to dinner.
They're speedrunning. They had something ready to be delivered. Or maybe they got a hot date somewhere. As they're pushing up for the inhib tower, actually. And Unicorns are nowhere near to defend just now. This tower will drop when a fight ensues.
Jeez, it's only 19 minutes. Shiganari forced to flash as well. Moonlight Vigil Caliprim, is it there? Yes, no. What? Yes, it is. The overlay was slow. It's a double kill for Jackspektra. As the Heretics, I mean, this is just mind-blowing. We're 20 minutes in.
They have a wave.
Be able to end.
They have a wave. 20 seconds on Shiganari, 30 on Scarface. The wave clear's not there, Joe. Heretics, they have the ultimate from Zwyroo as well to use on the Swain, and this Nexus tower, the first of the 2 is dropped.
There's one down. Can they keep this one going? Jackspektra half HP. Ruby trying to get the flank here as Lurox clears the wave. Heretics will be forced away for the time being, but man, the pressure that they are putting Unicorns under. And you know, we asked what had to change for Heretics coming into game number 3. Apparently the answer is put pressure on Ruby.
That pressure has worked so well, and just shutting him down. Kind of had a brief talk about it in the pre-show where, you know, Ruby very commonly can be the backbone, the rock. That stabilizes a lot of how Unicorns play, and if he's behind, it feels like the rest of the Unicorns potentially doesn't, you know, fully operate at 100% here as Shiganari forced to flash away. And I thought for a second maybe they could look for something here, but yeah, again, ultimate from Jackspektra able to take down Shiganari. Then, of course, Renekton drops very soon after, and they're actually toying with the idea of not taking down the inhibitor, but then they realized it was 20 minutes, so perfectly fine to do it, and now they're onto the Baron. They're on speedrun time.
They absolutely are. I mean, Shiganari's still in the base. There's realistically no way that this is contestable. This has to be a miracle steal for Lurox, but as you say, it ain't happening. Good little bit of fancy footwork. Lurox flashes back over. Solar Flare Ibo's there. And it's a kill for Jackspektra as Ruby tries to get in as well. It's a valiant effort from the solo laners, but it just isn't enough. Ibo just won't die either as he goes for a 1 versus 3 as Zwyroo here to finish the kill. bluerzor moves in, takes 4, and give him all 5. Jackspektra grabs the pentakill, and Heretics look to end.
Heretics, with a dominant game number 3, are going to wrap it up with a pentakill for Jackspektra on top of all of that. And they are going to go to series point, semi-finals point. And they are proving all of the analysts wrong pretty much. We all had Unicorns down as the series favorite. And right now, they're saying, hell no. We want our ticket to the semis.
And doing it in a 22-minute win as well. 22 minutes. That is mind-blowing from Heretics. After game number 2, they got decimated by the Unicorns. They come in, back from the drawing board, and they're like, okay, here's how we're playing this one. Here's how we're dominating the early game. Here's how we're shutting Ruby down. And I mean, you said they needed to end before the healing comes online. I don't even saw any healing all game.
There was no healing to be had, yeah. That was absolutely absurd. I feel like, you know, Heretics, a lot of positives to talk about just across the board. Everything. Noah's in the background dancing. I couldn't keep my composure for that one. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, you know, Heretics just firing on all cylinders, right? Jackspektra just getting so much freedom. It feels like Zwyroo with the rest of his team is linking up super well to also shut down Ruby. And on the opposite side for Unicorns, it feels like draft side, they're not always, you know, fully utilizing what they have available to them. They have the Sejuani Renekton, they're not diving Ibo 24/7, right? They've got they had the Sejuani Sylas again. They're not really pairing up to try and shut down the mid lane like they did in game number 2. Something definitely felt a little bit off in comparison. I feel like they really do need to play towards the strong win conditions that they have for themselves inside the draft. Otherwise, they're allowing too much freedom for Heretics. And right now, freedom is exactly what they had in that game number 3 to give them a 22-minute win.
Yeah, that was something special from Heretics. And I feel like now Unicorns, they need to lean on Sheepy, right? He's the guy that everyone's talking about at the start of the day. That coach needs to step up and get the players back on track for game number 4. What a series, though, so far, as the Heretics come on top again. We'll take a closer look behind the scenes of the Spanish organization again. And after that, you should check out the Warner song of the day, Where Do We Go? By Lumix and DVBBS Dubs? I don't know. We're going to go to a break and then we'll find out.
Heretics nació sin ninguna inversión detrás, era un proyecto de 3 chavales básicamente, no teníamos nada de dinero, entonces teníamos que ir ascendiendo poco a poco. Yo tenía mi carrera en YouTube y tenía mi audiencia y dije, bueno, pues a través de mi audiencia vamos a crear un club de esports, vamos a hacerlo de una forma un poco diferente y bueno, pues así empezó todo. Bueno, pues bienvenidos al Heretics Hub. Es nuestro espacio físico aquí en Madrid, que tiene la parte de tienda, una parte de ciber, de gaming puro y también un mini estadio donde vamos a jugar los partidos y donde vamos a hacer viewing parties de todas las competiciones que juega Heretics. La marca es súper importante, es lo que hace que Heretics no solo sea un club de esports, es un poco también en lo que nos hemos centrado, en expandir los límites de lo que puede ser un club de esports, no solo quedarnos con la parte de competición, que la queremos llevar a lo más alto, pero también desarrollar toda la parte de marca. Queremos llegar a ser el club más grande del mundo y para serlo, obviamente, tienes que tener equipo de League of Legends, es el eSport más grande del mundo. Es cierto que Heretics siempre ha sido de shooters y sabíamos que si entrábamos en LoL teníamos que tener una persona con credibilidad para entrar a una industria de la que no éramos nativos.
Yo estaba en un momento donde llevaba compitiendo 7, 8 años. Yo sentía que, no sé, esa necesidad de tener un club, pero para siempre. Me sentí muy encajado, me sentí muy representado y dije, yo creo que a largo plazo no va a haber ningún sitio donde esté más cómodo y donde yo creo que se van a hacer mejor las cosas.
When I I joined the Spanish league, it was like everybody really cared about the matches. There were so many big personalities. I wanted to be on the best roster possible, and I think the result that we showed in spring didn't really show our true potential as a team.
I won a lot of LANs in my career, like over 20, and this time when I came to Spain, I thought this level of the competition and level of other teams was pretty high, so I expected like top 2, top 3.
Con Heretics sí que siento que ha sido de un 0 a un 200. Hablamos de que el año pasado no tenían equipo de LoL, decidieron entrar en Superliga.
Siempre quisimos entrar en League of Legends, entramos en segunda división, ganamos la segunda división, pero perdimos el up and down. Luego volvimos a intentar entrar en Superliga uniéndonos a G2, hicimos G2 Heretics, pero no nos sentíamos cómodos del todo porque no era nuestra plaza, no era nuestro proyecto. Así que ya el año pasado decidimos pegar el salto y entrar como nosotros, como Team Heretics. Y la verdad que ha sido la mejor decisión que hemos podido hacer.
Está guapo esto,
Está guapo. Y lo que mola es que aquí lo que tenemos que poner también es una cámara, ¿sabes? Rollo desde la esquina y pinchar desde el co-stream, ¿sabes? Pinchar esto.
De cabeza, cuando pinchemos se vuelva loca la gente.
Sí. ¡El capitán Jackspektra!
It felt pretty surreal when it happened, and being in front of like a live audience of so many people was really crazy.
Es como verme a mí un poco en el pasado, ¿no? Ver a jugadores, pues alguno lleva ya más tiempo, otro menos. Me da alegría ver a la gente hacer lo mismo que hacía yo.
I was quite excited. I felt like the adrenaline kind of took me over. Here it was majority Giants fans, and I don't know, something about it for me is like really satisfying about like shutting the crowd up, and I really enjoy that feeling, I guess.
¡Jackspektra! ¡Esto que no le va a dar a nadie! ¡Esto que le pinta bien a Team Heretics con una doble para bluerzor!
La final era contra un equipo que, bueno, por nombres tenía que haber ganado la liga, tenía mucho más experiencia en stage, pero al final el equipo ha trabajado esta temporada increíble y se merecen ser campeones, vamos.
¡Tenemos nuevo campeón de la Superliga! ¡Heretics llega a su...
It feels very euphoric, absolutely. But at the same time, it kind of felt natural. Like, I think this team already had great players in them. I think Heretics had the resources to be able to do great things.
We understand each other really well, so here it's like more like a family for me.
Thanks to you guys, I also won Coach of the Split. So I'm going to have this ceremony, so I really want to thank you guys for that as well. Like how easy you made it for me in that regard.
Nice. I'm really grateful for all the work that my teammates put in and how far we were able to get, and I hope we can replicate it in new Masters.
2-0 para Heretics, que empieza con muy buen pie el European Masters.
Bueno, la verdad que ha sido un aprendizaje, pero es que la narrativa no ha podido ser mejor. Es decir, hemos salido campeones de España y ahora estamos representando a nuestro país en el European Master.
We were just like so focused on just like improving and running for the title that it didn't really sink in yet when it actually happened, when we were confirmed like as the first Spanish team for EU Masters.
Yo he tenido muy buena experiencia con European Masters. Ya no estás jugando en casa, no estás jugando en España, sino que de repente juegas contra los mejores, juegas contra leyendas de otros países. La última European Masters que yo jugué también la ganamos, entonces eso para mí me representa un montonazo.
La gente sabe la competitividad que hay entre España y otros países y joder, poder representar a España y poder ser el equipo que está llegando más lejos, para nosotros es un honor y una responsabilidad. Entonces sí que esa responsabilidad yo creo que la sienten los jugadores y la sentimos todos, de intentar dejar a la Liga Española en la mejor posición posible.
Lo que se ha hecho hasta el día de hoy te da a entender cómo de en serio vamos. Hemos ganado la final de la Superliga, estamos ahora en European Masters y además hemos entrado a la LEC. La verdad, yo creo que es el mejor comienzo que puede tener un club entrando al LoL y para mí es pues, un mensaje muy claro de que al final Heretics venimos aquí a intentar ganar, pero a pasarlo bien.